Welcome to the KMC Collective Podcast, where the KMC team brings you practical insights, creative ideas, and authentic conversations for children's ministry leaders. Each conversation is packed with strategies to help you lead with clarity, build strong teams, nurture families, and stay healthy in the process. Whether you're planning lessons, training volunteers, or seeking encouragement for the week ahead, this podcast is for you. We hope to make you laugh, cry, think, and maybe a bit of all three in each of our weekly conversations. This is the KMC Collective Podcast. Let's jump into the conversation.
And welcome to another KMC Collective Podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Cole.
All right. And we are glad that you all are here to join this week's conversation. And so, Cole, kick us off. What are we chatting about in this week's KMC conversation?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, I had to submit my budgets, and I figured, hey, I'm in budget season. Everyone else is most likely in budget season. So I figured today, let's talk about budgets. Like, they don't have to be boring, but can they actually help build ministry and not just fund ministry, stuff like that. So you guys got anything, like little one-offs you could give some advice here, just real quick, 20, 30 seconds?
I hate money. Oh, how's that for a mindset? I hate money.
Wow.
Money is evil.
I have a quick one, Cole.
Okay.
So
Please, Vicki.
We budgeted for this great, not necessarily event, but we were going to write letters to all the parents. So small group leaders were going to write letters to all the parents at the beginning of the year, and then we were going to mail them until we got to that week, and we counted how many letters that was going to be, and we realized you need to budget for postage, and you need to budget a lot for postage. So mine's kind of a budget fail. We learned the next year we put that money in there. The good news is we have parents in front of us every single weekend. So we were able to still hand those to parents, but it was not ideal because of a budget fail in planning. Those little details matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have one, Tom, if you don't.
Yeah, because I'm still trying to think of how I want to say what I want to say.
Okay, so mine's also a budget fail. So I was at my first church, and I remember I was sitting in my next gen pastor's office, and we were planning kids camp the year prior, or the year before it's gonna happen. And he said, I want you to dream big on the games portion. I want you to dream as big as you can. So I dreamed big, and he didn't give me a budget number. He just let me go spend money. We were, I'm not going to say the exact word, but we were 4 digits over budget a couple of times over because I dreamt real big, but nobody reined me in.
4 digits with no decimals.
There were decimals, but there was only 1 comma, but there were probably 4 or 5 thousands of comma. Not like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So the game itself and the games we did were epic, and they were awesome. Yeah. But we did get a little bit of pushback from senior leadership on our budget come that year.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, I guess my first hot take right off the bat is don't let poverty mindset rule when you're budgeting. Because I'm a cheapskate. I've never had much to begin with, and there were times I think that was one of my biggest struggles was I budgeted out of a poverty mindset, out of I don't have enough volunteers. I don't have enough space. I don't have enough. And so I would oftentimes limit my budget in some ways because I didn't think I had enough of. And so, I mean, that's going to be my kickoff hot take of just, because I don't love numbers, and I don't love money. And so I get frustrated by it. And so I've told people I've coached, don't You got to clear that out of the brain. Empty the cash register on that, and don't start going into your budget season with that kind of attitude or mindset or heart attitude, because that's just not a good way to go.
Well, Tom, I think you speak to something, because a lot of us, when we went into children's ministry, we didn't go into children's ministry thinking we were going to have, budgeting prowess, and we were going to need to know how to do calculations and numbers. And I'll let you know that accounting was my worst grade ever in college. So if they would have known that I was going to be in charge of budgeting, they might have thought twice. But a lot of us didn't go into children's ministry thinking like we were going to have to figure out this budget.
Right. Oh,
and
yeah.
so I think this is really
Completely.
key in helping people understand, especially if they don't like numbers, they're not comfortable coming up with budgeting numbers.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can give them some tips on, how to go into it with not a poverty mindset.
Yeah.
Maybe some positivity. And so how would you shift your brain from that to maybe some strategic thinking?
And it's kind of funny that you brought up the whole accounting thing. My accounting class in high school, the only time I ever took it, was taught by my football coach. So, he was like, well, the debit goes here, and that's how he talked. I learned nothing about accounting, and I was like a sophomore. I could have cared less as a sophomore in high school. Here's how I started doing things. Is I started thinking about what was my big vision. What am I prioritizing the most, so that it reflects my heart of people before programming. And so I always said, and one of the things that I got coached on was, you have a big God, you should have a bigger vision because of that big God, meaning that if you really believe he controls all of the resources and can provide, then you need to budget for your vision. You need to really do, your goals are good, but your vision and what you value and your priority of what you want to accomplish with your ministry, for yourself, for your team, for your families, for the kids, that's where you got to start, and go in with that mindset that I have a God with unlimited resources. And so if it all depends on him, I'm going to budget with that I don't see how it's going to happen. You get the picture of when Indiana Jones was going into the one cave, and there was that big divide, and he's standing on one side, he's got to get to the other, and he can't see any way across. And then all of a sudden he starts shifting his view and realizes there's something there. And so he takes some dirt and he throws it out, and he sees that pathway. But it took a step of faith to actually go, okay, I can't fully tell if there's something actually there, but I'm going to take the step anyway. And then boom. I think that's how the mindset has to go, is like that. I can't see how every dollar is going to come in, but I'm going to do my best to figure out what the vision is and what God wants me to accomplish this year. And then I'm going to start putting dollars to those things, because it takes nickels to reach noses.
Yes, it does. I'll give you for instance right now. It's been on my heart. I think I've talked about it in previous podcasts a little bit, but it's been on my heart that our church needed to start an every child ministry or special needs ministry. Like it's a need in our community. And so I've been working with some of our parents about it. And so this year when we were doing our budgets, I was like, man, I really need to put in a capital request for it and really explain why this is a thing that matters. And you know what? When I budgeted, instead of going, what can it beat it? What could I do to what's the big budget? You know what I mean? Like if I had $10,000 type deal, what could I do to these rooms? And so I kind of presented a budget in 3 categories to our leadership of a small, medium, and large budget. And so I said, if we did everything I could think of, this is what it's going to look like. If we did a little bit of what I'm thinking of, it looks like this. And the cool part about it is I was able to take, to our campus pastor and our senior leadership was like, this is my vision for it. This is what I see. This is what I'm hearing from our people that we need. And so all of a sudden our senior pastor of all our campuses, he got on fire for that vision. And now he's taken the budget line and exploded it Like I was thinking, like we'll just do
nice.
we'll do the low budget number. And he's like, but what if you didn't have a budget and you had unlimited funds? And I said, well, this is what it would cost to do everything. And he goes, and what if we implement it over like a couple year period? So it's not actually a budget request, it's a new ministry initiative. And I was like, oh.
Oh, hello.
And so no, and I'm saying all this, and budgets have not been approved yet. So I hope this he doesn't hear it. But I will tell you, it is really cool when you go in, instead of going, what's the low bar that I could just get over to get a yes?
Mm-hmm.
What if I came at it with the biggest vision I could think of, and I just threw that out there, and then I made them come down and say, well, we can't give you 10 grand, but maybe we could give you 5 grand, or maybe we could give you 2 grand. And you presented different levels of budgeting based on, an ultimate vision that could maybe be a 5-year plan, but say phase 1 is $1,200. Phase 1 is $500. And this is what phase 1 could do for the future of our ministries. And so, we're talking about not letting the numbers dictate it, let the vision dictate it. That's a cool thing, is because the vision that God put on my heart is now the vision we have as we move forward. And it sounds like it's going to be pretty great. And that, I'm saying it as awesome. I don't know the for sure answer of what's going to happen, but getting everyone on board with the vision, not the number, has been amazing.
That's good stuff.
I
like that.
So cool. I am so glad you guys are investing in that community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So needed.
Yes,
I love the idea of starting from scratch when you're doing a budget and brainstorming. And so one thing I love to do is like, let's brainstorm and whiteboard all of our ideas first, like similar to like your big idea, Cole. So let's put everything up on the board. Like if funds were unlimited, what would we do? I think that helps for a couple of things. It could see are we trying to reach for the moon, or are we like trying to do too much? Like that does both things. But I love, let's brainstorm, let's see everything. And then out of that, take that, start from 0, and then put your non-negotiables in your budget and then grow it. And I love how you gave your leadership like tiers.
Yeah, I like
they
that
love
too.
The why.
That's really
but
good.
when it comes down to it, these are finance people. And so they do need numbers. And so I love breaking down the numbers. So this is going to help 25 families. And if 25 families came 52 times a year, this is how much life change would happen. And just breaking it down into people and weeks and dollar amounts is so key, because the dollars do matter, but it should flow out of the vision. And so I love how you did that.
That's really good. So I'm curious, you guys, because both of you, since you're talking about it, I can imagine a listener going, okay, so what should I really have in my budget? What kind of things, if you're whiteboarding all this out, Cole had, names one specific area. What are some of the other things that really should be on somebody's budget? Vicki already pointed out one thing that I don't know if I ever really thought about was postage. I never really thought. I never really thought about. I mean, I guess that was the overall admin thing, but that also went into somebody else's budget, and I didn't have to, I guess. But I'm just curious, what do you guys typically put on your budgets, as far as like main categories? Maybe I guess because we probably don't have time to go super into the weeds, but I'm just curious, what are some of the things that you guys felt like were part of your vision and overall strategy of ministry? But what are some of the areas, maybe we can help people make a list of, hey, these things you ought to be thinking about putting dollars towards.
So I will tell you, go ahead, Vicki.
I know, we're like, go ahead. No, you.
Okay. I was say my first one, I actually have like 2 hard non-negotiables, but I only give one because I don't want to take it if Vicki has the other one. My first one is personal development, because you need to grow your leadership. You need to be able, like, whether it's going to conferences or reading books or online, forums that you would be a part of, or subscriptions or coaching or anything like that. Like, those things all matter, because if you're not doing well and you're not growing, how can you expect anyone that you're leading to do the same thing? So for me, a non-negotiable non-negotiable is personal development, and making that a priority, not like a priority in the sense of here's a large chunk of my budget, let me give 50% of my budget to me, but enough to know that at the end of the year I have grown as a leader so that I can grow leaders and disciple leaders within my ministry.
There you go. I like that one. That's
That's
a good
so
one to
good.
kick off.
I think that can be last, right? So many people put that
Yeah.
last, or they
Yep.
don't think about even putting it
Yep.
in. I don't want to put that in the budget.
Yep.
Can I guess what your second one was?
Sure.
Maybe. Is your second non-negotiable volunteer care?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. I was hoping that's what it was. I kind of had that feeling.
That's curriculum, actually.
Well, unfortunately, that's probably one of the biggest parts of your
it's
budget.
a different one.
There are some things that you do need.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you are, when you're going to put your budget in,
Yeah.
you're going to start that list with like your curriculum supplies,
Yep.
what you need to teach kids about Jesus. Like that is going to
Yeah.
be.
Those are
Yep.
key.
And I think what we're talking about today in budget are what are those other things
Yep.
that you might not think about, and you're going
Right.
to get 3 months in.
Yep.
And you're going to be like, oh, shoot, I wish I would have had more money for that. And I love when we can care for our volunteers well in 2 areas. Like, how are you caring for them while you have them on site serving? And then do you have budget where you are caring for them outside of Sunday mornings? A
Mhm.
small budget where you can take them out for coffee or send them
Mhm.
thank you notes, some
Yep.
form of budget to care for them in both areas.
That's good. Yeah. If you're not investing in your people, how are they going to grow?
Yeah.
So yeah, I always would try to, at least every other year, try to take a couple of my key leaders to a ministry conference, because when you take people with you, it just enlarges their vision. Honestly, I've watched where I took a couple to a conference, and God really got a hold of their heart and called them into ministry. I lost them as volunteers because they got called to a church, but
Yeah.
what a cool thing, to know that I had an opportunity to invest in them and disciple them and then take them somewhere. But I also had some leaders that got more invested and went, hey, I would like to do more, because they got around all these ministry people. So I think that's huge. I think for me, one of the things that, especially nowadays in our world, that leaders need to be thinking about is some of those kind of things about safety and security and infrastructure stuff. Making sure that you're thinking through and budgeting for those kind of items. They're not flashy, they're not fun, they're not exciting, but we need to make sure that we're taking care of kids and taking care of their families. And, I was talking to a smaller church leader, and she was telling me that one of the big struggles she's having is convincing the church that they need safety and security measures. And why, because she's working on a budget and she wants to put some of this kind of stuff in. And so she was looking at cameras for her hallway and classrooms. She was looking at a way to communicate with her team. So she was looking at some radios, and she's like, I know I only have 4 classrooms, but if we have to lock everything down, how are we going to talk to each other? And she's like, I understand. And even with name tags and all these kind of things and having a check-in system, she's like, some of my people just don't understand why we need that stuff. And I said, well, it's not for them. It's for those people who are coming into your church that you're trying to reach. It's not for the convenience and comfort of my families that are in the building. They're in the building. It's for those people that are first-time show-up people. And so I think that's one of the areas that often gets overlooked, is making sure that you are budgeting to take care of some of those kind of things, that you have first aid kits and all those kind of little things. That's just one of those things that I didn't often think about until I needed something. And then it was like, oh yeah, I should have thought of that.
Well, Tom, I have a quick little story about that. I was talking with another kids director friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and they were like, something, I got a call from a volunteer, something according to them was inappropriate happened when they were doing check-in and greeting. And
oh boy,
luckily enough, there was a camera right there. And so they went back, looked through the camera, And based on what they saw and a number of other staff members saw, it was interpreted incorrectly. Nothing inappropriate really did happen.
Good.
What was said in the email and the phone call did not line up with what was on camera. Now, that individual felt that way, and that's valid, but not downplaying that whatsoever. But saying what they said and what actually happened didn't line up. But if they didn't have the camera, if they hadn't taken the time to invest in that, that situation could have, snowballed way out of control into something that it wasn't. And so it's almost more important than you think it is nowadays. But and also depending on your context, like being in small town Ohio where I'm at now, it's not as thought about as much. But where I was at up in Michigan, up in Detroit, 15 years ago, there were cameras 15 years ago. I mean, we just got cameras like 3 years ago down here. And 15 years ago up at that. I mean, so it's just context, things like that.
Yep.
But you have to think through the safety and precaution of it all with your kids. It's almost the most important thing on a Sunday morning is the safety of not only your kids and your volunteers, but the people that walk through the doors, as you said, Tom, the people that come in for the first time, those individuals.
That's good. Yep. I just think sometimes we take it for granted that, I know everybody. And well, yeah, you may think you know everybody, but do you really? And it only takes one thing. And, I've seen churches lose their entire ministry and their credibility in the community because they assumed they knew how things were going and what they were doing. So and I just think it's those kind of little things that we forget about in our budgets or we don't think we can ask for. And I think those were, I think we came up with 3 good things that you ought to be thinking about. There are probably, is there anything else that you'd be like, hey, we should probably mention real quickly? You ought to have at least these couple of things. Is there anything else that I'm thinking about?
I would also say like your ministry experiences, your camps, your Christmas stuff, your baby dedications, your baptisms, things like that.
Yep.
And then as Vicki talked about earlier, and I kind of talked about Dream Fund, a what if fund. What if there was what if there were no constraints and you could just do it exactly the way you would always imagined it with no one telling you, we don't have the money for that. An idea, even if it's just an idea fund and you figure out how do we put some money in there and looking to see what that is. So
that's good.
I love that. I love that idea. I think one for me that sticks out is resources. Making sure you're budgeting, and that often could probably find itself up on like that brainstorming wall, your dreaming wall. But make sure you are putting money into that, especially if you're wanting to design something and have it professionally printed. Making sure you put in the budget your resources, especially resources you're giving out to parents, or if you have a resource wall.
Yeah.
A lot of people right now are trying to figure out making a resource wall, and so that might be on somebody's budget. But resources, don't underplay the value of resources.
Very true.
Especially for your parents.
Very true. Very true. So, okay. Since I brought up poverty mindset at the beginning of this conversation, I've been in a couple churches where I started getting into spending freezes or told be cautious about how you're spending. And I know there's listeners out there that are going, budget? You get a budget? What is that? I don't know how to make one because I've never had one. I've just been told, come to us when you need something or whatever. And whatever. I'm just curious, for those people that struggle with when things are really tight, and they start looking, because I know that can be very discouraging, that you're looking at everybody else and what everybody else has. And everybody knows and everybody will say, don't compare. But we do. We're humans. We're going to compare. I've done it many times where I looked at the bigger church up the street and saw all the stuff that they're doing another building project. And I can't even get paint for the walls. So I'm just curious let's have a few minutes here where we can chat about this idea of how do we figure out what to do when things are tight or when you've got a minimal budget or you feel like you've got a minimal budget, what would you share with somebody that came to you and said, help? Wow, I
Yeah,
left you speechless.
Tom, I think it's being creative and how open is your leadership to that creativity.
Mm,
So you want, for example, you might want to do painting in the children's ministry wing, and that gets X from your budget, or they're like, that's never going to happen. Well, would they allow that to be done for free? And then are you able to bring in somebody to paint? Could you even have a painting party? So that's like
done
one
that.
example. Can you be, yeah, right?
Done that too.
Can you be creative in that? And I know I've had conversations with leaders and around volunteer care, and they're like, Vicki, it's great that you're talking about all this. I don't have money for volunteer care this year.
Yeah.
So what would it look like to make cookies and go to the park? Especially if
Yep.
you have kids, just make a play date at the park
Yep.
or go get ice cream, something small, or
Yep.
there's a lot of free places. Go to the mall
Mhm.
if
Oh,
you're in
yeah.
Michigan or somewhere in the north where it is cold in January.
Uh-huh.
Go to the mall, let kids play, or just walk and have a
Yep.
conversation. And so getting creative and finding those ways when the budget is tight.
Yeah. Yep.
Also, it's okay mid-year to go back to leadership and ask, hey, how is money?
Mhm.
Has anything freed up? Is there any way I could get $200 for this?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yep.
if you go in with that mindset of this is my vision, this is what I want to accomplish, and this is how
Mm-hmm.
many people it would affect, that could be a way in the right when money is tight, even to free up some funds. How
I
about you?
like that. I like that.
No, I mean, to kind of go off a little bit over what you said, Vicky. Something that I do. I mean, I am lucky, and I do have a fund that I can take volunteers out for coffee and buy them donuts once a month for all my volunteers and all that. But another piece of it is like, and this is tiny, but it also matters almost probably more than the coffees and the donuts is, and it's simple and easy, and takes me 10 minutes a week. I pick two volunteers that I strategically pick out on a Sunday morning, observe them, and then write them a thank you note and talk about what I observed and why I'm thankful for them.
Yes.
And even if I observed like nothing, awe-inspiring or grand, it was like, hey, I saw how you were, sitting down with so and so and working on this, working on
Yeah.
whatever this, the lesson called for. Just to really appreciate your time and your effort you put for these kids on a Sunday morning. You don't even know how much it matters to them
Yeah.
and to
I
the
love it.
kingdom. And so thank you for what you do. I mean, those sometimes matter way. I mean, unless you get high school students, donuts matter more. But for most of your adult volunteers, a handwritten letter or a handwritten postcard with two sentences and a thank you, and just
Yep.
saying, "Hey, I noticed you and you matter," will go a long way. And that's,
Yep.
I think, a postcard is 61 cents postage. And luckily, I don't have to pay for that. It comes out of the office budget. But si- I think we can budget 61 cents for,
Yeah.
104 postcards,
Mhm.
61
Yeah.
cents 104 times over the year. So,
Yep. A
yeah.
text message or a phone call costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
People over programs. Budget people over
Yes.
programs.
Yes.
Absolutely. And even when things are tight, keep
Mhm.
that mindset. But yeah, I mean, be creative. Look for ways to partner with people in your church that have resources. Look for community organizations that you can partner with. Don't
Mhm.
be afraid to ask for donations. Um, when we were at a little bit of a cautionary time, we did when parents were buying back to school supplies, we put out a list of things that the kids ministry needed and asked if they would be willing to pick up some extras. And we took a huge chunk out of our budget, not having to buy crayons and markers and construction paper and glue sticks because parents bought some of that for us and took that in. We also partnered with local churches. I cut my Bible school budget in a huge way because churches spend obscene amounts of money, honestly, on decorations that ultimately even the kids aren't really paying attention to. But it's something that leaders
Looks
grew up
cool.
with.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, it looks cool, but you gotta know. I mean, you gotta admit, if you grew up in the era of Bible school where people blew out all of the stuff and created all this huge environment stuff, you're gonna want to recreate that for the kids because you grew up with that and you think that
Mhm.
has to happen. And really, I mean, I'm like, hey, church down the street, you go for it. I'm going to do my Bible school a couple weeks after you, and I'm going to recycle your stuff. And I had spectacular stuff, and I might send some of my team over to help them build it, in cooperation. But I stretched my budget. I found cardboard places that would donate big sheets of cardboard, and we made lots of sets out of them. It just works. So yeah, I think when you're tight, you just ask the God of all resources to show you some creativity,
Yes.
and you'll be able to stretch it out. So, all right. Well, I know we're gonna run out of time here pretty quick, but I'm just curious if somebody said to you, "I got $500 that I want to give to the kids ministry," what's one thing, one thing that you would buy for yourself, for your team, for your ministry? Go.
I'll let you go,
I
Vicki.
got him speechless because everybody's like, you two are like, that would never happen. I don't know what I
Nope.
would do, and that's
Well,
what
I know.
most of the
Is this
listeners
one
are
of the,
probably
is
saying.
this a trick question? People would be like, well, Bibles, but no,
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
spend, I would spend it on
that's
volunteer
like
care.
answering Jesus.
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
say,
Moses,
right.
Tom,
David.
I did have somebody in the church leave me $500 for kids ministry when they passed. And I used it for a combination of two things. We were in the middle of kids camp season. I was able to buy the shirts at a lower cost because I had more money to put in other places. And then I was also allowed to give kids scholarship money so they didn't have to pay for our kids camp. Like, it's only $10, but when you've got a family of 5, it's not just $10, it's $50. And so taking that 500 and going, okay, let's circumvent some cost in t-shirts and help some kids come to camp with some families that can't afford, 50. I actually have one family has 7 kids that came to camp last year at $10 a piece. So yeah, there's a lot of kids.
Very cool.
Big family. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Vicki, what would you do if $500 dropped in your lap and spend it on whatever you want for your ministry? What would you
I
do?
would care for volunteers. I would do something
She's so
above
better
and
than us.
beyond for volunteers, whether that's right, something that you didn't know you were going to get to do, whether it's like purchasing coffee mugs or something like that they don't need even. I would just go out and I would do something extra to really thank the volunteers for what they were doing in the ministry, along with the why, right? Reminding them, like, thank you, here's this gift. And thank you so much for serving weekly or every other week and helping kids know Jesus more. That's what I would do.
I like it. I like it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap up. And as we do, I just want to thank all of our listeners. And for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing this. We always love to hear it. We had a couple more people. Just before we recorded, I was going through and adding some new people into the Kid Ministry Collective Facebook group that said, "Hey, I've been listening to the podcast, love the new conversations, just thank you. Thanks for letting us know that this is part of you. We would love to know in the Facebook group, how do you budget? What are some of the things you prioritize? What are some of the things that maybe we didn't get to talk about that you're like that, hey, I do this, or you have a question. We would love to hear how, what kind of questions you have, because we would love to answer them either on a podcast or we'll answer them right there in the Facebook group, because we're here to help you. So, man, I can't wait to get ready. We've got a lot of great episodes coming up. We've got some more. Ben will be back and join us on the next episode. And so we're looking forward to having him back. And you never know what you're going to get here at the KMC Collective Podcast, right?
No, we miss Ben. I'm not going to lie. He brings an energy that is one of a kind.
He does.
He does. Maybe it's just the bald head. I don't know. If he's going to get me with the gray, I'm going to get the bald head thing in there too.
There you go. There you go.
Get a
He
magic
would have
8
made
ball.
budgeting more fun.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah, we definitely took the coach approach today, but that's all right because that's what we do. We're here to serve you. So if you're interested in coaching, check out kmccoach.net, or if you really want to get part of a growth community, come check out kidminplus.net. We would love to have you come join our community where we're going to be having some live conversations coming up on a regular basis. You don't want to miss these kind of conversations where you can get into the middle of it all. So, all right, that's going to wrap up this week's conversation. I'm Tom.
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Cole.
All right, we'll see you next time. We're out.
Hey, friend, that wraps up the KMC Collective Podcast for this week. Thanks so much for listening. If today's episode sparked something, an idea, a heartbeat, or a fresh start, drop us a line at tom@tombump.com or reach out on social media. We'd love to hear your story and keep the conversation going. Remember, you're not just doing kids ministry, you're shaping the next generation's faith with intention and care. Be encouraged, be creative, and take a breath. You've got this. Catch you next time on the KMC Collective Podcast.